Hare Krishna. Was everybody hearing that, what I was saying? Or
yes, Prabhuji. Last 1 minute, Prabhuji, but otherwise we have. Yes.
How are we doing?
Yes, Prabhuji. We can hear.
Right. What was the last thing that you heard?
It's 8 o'clock.
What was the last thing that you heard, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
You were speaking about, Prabhuji, how that Prabhupada saved him from becoming a Samartha, but he was saying that how he has Brahminical qualities.
Right. Okay. So I'll pick it up from there. Okay. We'll start again. I'll not quite start. My deepest apologies for these technical glitches. Not much I can do at the moment. All right, so Prabhupada had given this class. He gave many classes stressing the importance of worship as the Guru as being directly Krishna himself. Shakshadari Twanatsamasa Shastri. So on August 17, Prabhupada was at the Hyderabad temple for Janmashtami and his Vyasa Puja the following day. The devotees have worked hard to have everything ready, and a group of prominent South Indian Brahmanas, led by Sri Sampak Kumar Bhattacharya, did the installation pujas. Prabhupada was very happy with them. They were equally appreciative of ISKCON and held great reverence for Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was happy with his men, led by Mahamsa Swami, and he encouraged them. So at the same time, he observed some discrepancies in their service, and at the appropriate time, he brought these to the temple leader's attention. So a little later in the day, Prabhupada met with his leaders. This is August the 17th, 1976. So Prabhupada's quarters are on the first floor at the back of the building. Despite the fact that work is still going on and that cement, dirt and dust are everywhere, and the noise of construction is all pervasive, Prabhupada moved right in. What had happened, we had come in on, I think, the 16th evening. We flew there to Hyderabad, and it was late at night. The devotees took us straight to Prabhupada's rooms, or rather there was a Jagyashala, and they were doing some puja. So Prabhupada had to sit for half an hour through that, and then he was expecting to retire to his room. Unfortunately, the devotees had not been able to complete the building in Prabhupada's room, and there was so much cement, dirt and dust everywhere. So nevertheless, Prabhupada moved right into his rooms. The room was so dirty, I had to sweep it out while Prabhupada sat and watched me. Somehow the local devotees could not arrange to have it cleaned before he arrived, but Prabhupada does not seem to mind. His main concern is that they organize a successful opening of the temple. So Prabhupada had gone to the Bhadrukas, spent 2 or 3 hours there in the middle of the night, and then decided that we can't do this temple installation unless we have, the proper builders and engineers, etc. So some of these things were missing, but still Prabhupada, when he moved into his room, he said it's better to stay in one's own place than somebody else's. So on that principle, he said we should go back to our temple, because he was worried that the installation was not going to, he was worried that the installation would not be completed properly unless he was sitting there watching it himself. So I had to first clean the room of all the construction garbage and sweeping, etc. And Prabhupada moved in. So at that time, he seemed to be quite happy to see the devotees were rushing here and there, fully engaged in preparing for the opening of the temple. And he overlooked any discrepancies as far as his own room and paraphernalia required. So once the pujas were over, then Prabhupada began to express his concerns. So because the devotees, local devotees, were all engaged in different services, then it was my duty as Prabhupada's servant to see that his rooms were cleaned, his bedding was changed, and whatever paraphernalia required was ready for him. So my problem was that the devotees in Hyderabad had a good excuse. They were engaged in, finishing the construction and opening the temple. So they had little time. But that meant that I had to go in and clean Prabhupada's rooms whilst they were working. That wasn't something that we normally did, but when there was a need, Prabhupada would dispatch his personal servant to help out. So I did that. And although I had supposedly cleaned his rooms, he noticed that his silver lota was tarnished, and also that the balcony was covered in a thick layer of dust. So the devotees had built the temple. It was a very high ceiling, and at the top, where the Vyasasan usually goes, the devotees had made a doorway which went directly from Prabhupada's room, and you could look down into the temple room and see all the activities that were going on. But the devotees had not had a chance to actually install the door. So there was just a thick velvet curtain separating Prabhupada's room from the temple room. It was a good idea, but it wasn't very practical. Mahamsa had told Prabhupada, when crowds come, if you can come, you can sit on this small veranda and people can see you, get your blessings, and at the same time it will give you the opportunity to withdraw and rest when you need to. So Prabhupada agreed to that, but he could see that things were not happening as quickly as they ought to. And he told them that he told me, now you have to clean out my room. So it was covered in a thick layer of dust. So Prabhupada mildly reminded them that reminded me that it was my service to attend to these things. He said that if I don't do them, then he has to see to them himself. So I sheepishly concurred. I had neglected the polishing of the lota because it was a task that was normally taken care of by the cleaning crew supplied by the host temple, and I had thus paid it scant attention. And although I had swept the floor of the room, I had neglected the balcony, thinking that it would not be used. So Prabhupada immediately saw these things going on, and he chastised me a little bit. So I'm getting a little dull, but Prabhupada is as sharp in his observance as ever. So we had a few obstacles. Gradually, they were removed. After I'd given him his massage, then the devotees had taken breakfast, and Prabhupada sent for Mahamsa Swami and Gopal Krishna Maharaj. So the lack of cleanliness was not the only thing that Prabhupada had noticed. He had taken his massage early at 8:45 a.m. and he called his two sannyasi leaders in. He asked them why the temple was not being decorated with garlands of flowers and strings of mango leaves. He also pointed out that although today was such an important occasion, the temple room was bare. So Mahamsa's excuse was that he had been busy with all the other arrangements. Prabhupada, obviously agitated by the lack of proper organization, also mildly chastised Mahamsa for the dirty and unfinished condition of his quarters. When he moved in, cement dust had been everywhere and the bathroom barely worked. Prabhupada lightly thumped the bolsters on either side of his asana, and he complained that they were so hard that they were no better than stones. So it wasn't going very well, frankly. But they were trying their best, and so Prabhupada didn't create too much of a scene. But he did feel the need to instruct his men how to do things a little bit more Brahmanically. So this issue with Prabhupada's room, it was dirty. It had this doorway that led onto the small balcony overlooking the temple room. But that doorway itself was very small, and they hadn't put a door in it. There was just some velvet cloth hanging over the hole there in the wall. And then, of course, when Prabhupada sat down on his seat, and I came into his room, Prabhupada complained that the bolsters on the seats were so hard that they were no better than stones. He gave them a couple of thumps to illustrate his point. And this is the important part. He said, the rooms of the spiritual master should be ready even before the deity rooms. This is the higher form of worship. So we all know those verses where Krishna says that nobody is as great as his devotee. And this was a lesson Prabhupada wanted them to learn properly. The worship of the Guru is the higher form of worship, and things should be done initially for him and then the deities. So anyway, we had a good festival for Janmashtami. The next day was Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, which was celebrated. Well, from Prabhupada's point of view, he had just received a copy of his 1976 Vyasa Puj book. So he had looked through that and he was quite pleased with that. Therefore he said that the rooms of the spiritual masters should be ready even before the deity rooms. This is the higher form of worship. So it was an opportunity, of course, for us to learn how to do things properly. After a few days, on August the 23rd, the South Indian Brahmanas traveled back to their temples, but not without first seeing Srila Prabhupada in his room and taking their leave. Prabhupada urged them to sustain this spirit of cooperation and help us to spread Krishna consciousness to the world. He happily posed for a photograph with them, and he accepted a gift of a Shalagram Shila from Sampak Kamab Bhattacharya before they left. So as he sat with the Shila on his desk, Prabhupada said that he would give it to the Bombay temple, which was well on the way to completion. But after everybody left, Prabhupada turned to Pradyumna Prabhu and he asked him if he would like to personally worship the Shalagram Shila. That this was a real event in one sense. Several temples had asked Prabhupada if they could have Shalagram Shila or Govardhan Shila. And Prabhupada, as I mentioned before, stopped them and told them to put the stones back on the hill. But now Prabhupada was saying that he would like to begin the worship of that Shila. And he wanted Pradyumna to take it up as his personal service. So Pradyumna agreed, and Prabhupada gave him some simple instructions. So we can carry, and every morning carry the Shila, and every morning just put in a singasan and tulsi and water and flour and a little fruit. That's all. Then turning to the rest of us, he said, he has got tendency to worship. Gargamuni added, yes, he's a Brahmana, Pandit. Prabhupada smiled, Panditji. And he called Pradyumna by his popular sobriquet. Prabhupada finalized Pradyumna's new duties with him. He told him to buy a small singasan, Pancha Patra water pot, and some fine linen from which he should make a small dhoti and chara for the Lord.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, it's 8:20 almost. We can have some question answer. Is it okay?
Oh, we're on a strict schedule, are we?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, I'm sorry I wasted so much time. All right. I'm just going to jump ahead and do one last paragraph because
yes,
so Prabhupada instructed Pradyumna how to worship the deity, Shalagram. If he couldn't do it, his wife could do it, and they could train their son Aniruddha to also do it. So after the Hyderabad temple opening, Prabhupada flew to Delhi to celebrate Radhastami. So after coming back from his regular morning walk, he entered the temple room. The house we had at that time, it was a semi-detached house. They converted it into a small temple. And there was they put this huge Vyasa in the room there. So there was hardly any room to maneuver about. But Prabhupada came in, he sat down on his Vyasa and then we had Guru Puja and class. So as the devotees were coming forward to offer a flower and obeisances, Prabhupada was scanning the room. I could see he was looking here and there. So he called me out over and he said, where is Pradyumna? So I said, I don't know, Srila Prabhupada. So he told me, you go and find him where he is. So I found him in an upstairs room, and he was just about to commence his Shalagram Shila Puja. So when I informed Prabhupada that he was doing his puja, Prabhupada was not at all happy. Clearly agitated, Prabhupada leaned in my ear and said, first of all, Guru Puja. Tell the nonsense. First of all, Guru Puja. So I relayed that to Prajumna, and after that I don't think he had any problems keeping to the schedule. But these 2 points, looking after the paraphernalia of the spiritual master, and also worshipping the deity. Prabhupada was very concerned that we have strict standards. So my realization was that we can do Vani and Vapu. We can serve Prabhupada's body and we can serve his teachings. And out of those, the Vani is more important. Because by engaging in service practically, then our realization of Krishna consciousness is enhanced. It's an important part of the ISKCON movement. Prabhupada explained several times that the Brahminical standards that he's given should be kept very strictly, and then this movement will become very powerful. But if we don't stick to our rules and regulations, he said at one time in Vrindavan, when we still had problems with the deity worship there, Prabhupada was very concerned. He said, if you don't look after these temples properly, then they'll just become like idols. And there was a word he used. Anyway, so by this combination, Prabhupada gave us entrance into the spiritual world, a privilege that can never be matched nor superseded. Prabhupada lives on, and by worshipping him through the Vani and Seva, we stand unassailable. Okay, so I'll finish at this point. I'm very sorry if things have not been very clear. I have some health issues which I have to deal with. It involves taking some pills every day, 4 or 5 times a day. And so I get a little bit spaced out sometimes when I'm talking. But anyway, I hope that the point there was that the worship of the spiritual master is the most important service that the followers can render to their spiritual master. Okay, so does anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yes,
Can you speak a little louder, Prabhu? I can hardly hear.
Okay. I'm saying thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
It was very nice to hear. And Prabhuji, couple of things. One was, from a book, I remember one instance where somebody's beads got stolen, lost. And they used to come to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada said that it is not necessary to change the beads because it is a chanting of the devotee that is sanctified at the time of initiation, not the beads. I found that very, 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 a very unique understanding of initiation, Prabhuji, because when we take initiation and the initiation beads are there, devotees are usually more attached to the beads. But this understanding from Prabhupada that it is not necessary to get the beads again if somebody has lost them, to get them again chanted by their spiritual master. And it is a chanting of the devotee that is sanctified at the time of initiation and not the beads.
Can you just give me a synopsis of that? I heard some of it, but I couldn't clearly make out what was the point that you wanted to.
point was, Prabhuji, that what I was trying to say is that to understand at the time of initiation, it is the chanting of the devotee which is sanctified and not the beads.
And not the beads?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
You know, so that, yes.
Well, I had a little experience with that. Prabhupada came to Vrindavan. I had just in December 76, 75, sorry. And I had just become his servant. So one day, one of the devotees, a friend of mine, he had asked Srila Prabhupada that because he had lost his beads, he had bought a new set and he gave them to me and asked me if I could get Prabhupada to sanctify them by chanting on them. So Prabhupada said that he would do it, but he said actually it's not necessary. It's the quality of the chanting that is important. At the same time, I did find some examples where Prabhupada, he told me that it's not the beads that are sanctified exactly, but it's the chanting of the devotee. But at another time, I found a letter where Prabhupada said that your beads are, I think it was to Giriraj Maharaj. He had also reported losing his beads. Prabhupada was not very happy. And he also told Giriraj that it was not just the beads that were sanctified. Not just the chanting that was sanctified. It was the beads also. So I got this, one letter where Prabhupada says that it's the chanting that is sanctified, and the other one said that it's the beads that are sanctified, and therefore you have to be careful to keep them. So I don't know what conclusion you can draw from that, but obviously initiation is the starting point, and to initiate something means to begin it. So Prabhupada always stressed to us that when he gave us our spiritual names and the beads, then he always stressed that we should chant very humbly and keep a very high Brahminical standard. So either the beads or the chanting, they're all, sanctified activities. But it's better to have your original beads if you've got them, obviously. Did that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, it answers.
So do we have any more questions?
Prabhuji, how was it to travel with Prabhupada in different time zones? So much we hear that he will enter into a different time zone, but he was not bothered by the time difference or the jet lag. Did you experience the same thing traveling with Prabhupada, Prabhuji?
Yeah, definitely. Prabhupada never slept practically. We say 3 or 4 hours, but even that was broken up. An hour after breakfast, an hour after lunch, and maybe an hour in the middle of the night when everybody was asleep. Prabhupada did tell some professors, Joseph O'Connell from Toronto University, he had come to see Prabhupada in Toronto, and he was a very favorable scholar. He's dead now, he died a couple of years ago. But he had noted, now what was I going to say? What was the last thing I said? All right, yes. Prabhupada was with the professors in Toronto, and one of the scholars had noted that Prabhupada had gotten the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, not just translated, but in a very elaborate format. He had made this wonderful presentation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and one of the professors asked Prabhupada, "Where do you get the time to write?" Because they were astonished. Most people, if they get one or two books out, they consider, themselves to have succeeded in their human form of life. Prabhupada was pumping them out. It took, so this lady, I don't know whether she was a religionist or a scientist, anyway, she was working at the university. So she expressed her amazement about how Prabhupada, could do things, so much work. When did he have the time to sit and write? Because they knew that during the day, that also was occupied fully by people coming and going for various reasons. So she couldn't conceive of how Prabhupada could have had such literary output and create a worldwide movement at the same time. So she asked Srila Prabhupada, "Where do you get the time for this?" So he told her, he said, "And then I take rest at 10, I'll take..."
I think the light went off. Yes, the light went out. It's right at the time of the answer. Climax.
Hare Krishna. So we're just waiting for Prabhuji to come back. And actually, he was not well today, but because he had given the commitment, so he took the session. And also, please understand that whenever we hear Prabhupada disciple, sometimes it may be very interesting, sometimes it may not feel like this, but we are doing a service, to Prabhupada, to be able to hear and get attachment, to his lotus feet, and also, to give opportunity to even his disciples to glorify him more and more, So, is Mr. Garam Prabhu there?
Yes.
Can you do short kirtan, Mr. Garam Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
This Guru Maharaj does. Whenever something light goes off, something Guru Maharaj says kirtan.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Continue, bro. I think the light went off again.
Yes, I think so. It again went off. He came, but it again went off. So,
Saying Mayapur evening, the light is going.
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
He's
Hare
back.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I'm sorry, this is Michael. Your question was answered or not?
Uh,
What did you ask?
that how did Prabhupada manage, without the jet lag and at
Yeah.
that old age?
Well, he just never slept. In the sense that we sleep. These professors were astonished that he could do so much work, and Prabhupada told them, he said, "I'm doing it little by little, like a drop falling on a stone. Everywhere I go, I keep this schedule. At 10:30, I take rest. I chant my rounds if there is any balance. And then I begin work on this Bhagavatam. And then about 5 o'clock, I finish." So he said, in this way, gradually, we've got 20 books, 30 books coming up. And that was it. So they were very amazed. And similarly, a few weeks later, we were in London at the Manor, and George Harrison came to see Prabhupada. I think it was the last time that he actually physically met with him. So he saw Prabhupada's book. We gave him a copy of the newest of the Bhagavatams that had just come out, plus another couple of books. And he was amazed at Prabhupada's, the sheer volume of what he was doing. And Prabhupada said, yes, he said, actually, it is not humanly possible. And later on, in September of '76, after the morning program, I was sat in Prabhupada's room with Harikesh and Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was talking, we were just chatting, but he had been working on the Bhagavatam, and he came up with this verse about the qualities of a sadhu. I just forget the Sanskrit for that now, but it gives the qualities of a sadhu. So while Prabhupada was glorifying the verse, and he said, there's nothing to compare with the Sanskrit language. It's such a beautiful language. So he said, I say, this is my writing. But he said, I know it is not my writing. It is Krishna's. So that wasn't the first time that Prabhupada had expressed that it was Krishna writing through him. So he was just, going along with that. There's a preface in the second volume of the first canto, at least the ones that came from India, Prabhupada's first publications, where Prabhupada, he made a comment that he said some friends of mine, they're, amazed at why he's taking up this task of writing the Bhagavatam and commentating on it in the English language. And he said, you're in Vrindavan, you should just retire. And at this time, this was like the beginning of the 1960s. So Prabhupada was 64 years old when he began the translation work. He did the first canto in 3 volumes. By that time, it was 1965. And then Prabhupada got his instructions to go to America and preach. So if you look at what Prabhupada did, throughout the 50s, he was living in Jhansi and preaching there, but not really getting anywhere. So he moved to Vrindavan. Eventually, he ended up at that Chippiwada temple, and he had a place in Vrindavan that he was working from. Let's see. Sorry, I've just forgotten my point. What was the last thing I was talking about?
That he went from there to Chippiwada temple. He was preaching in Jhansi in 50s, Prabhuji. And then he said from there he landed up at Chippiwada temple.
Yeah, I'm just... I'm sorry this happens sometimes with this.
No problem, Prabhuji. There's somebody who's asking question, Prabhuji, that can you share what was Prabhupada's daily routine?
Daily routine when I was with him, he would translate during the night. And then in the early morning, just before sunrise, then he would brush his teeth, wash his face, put tilak on, and then come out for his morning walk. And he would walk for half an hour and then turn around and come back. So he got at least an hour's walking done. That was a good exercise. That morning walk, it was not something that he was doing before he was in ISKCON. But in 1967, when they were just developing 26 Second Avenue, Prabhupada had some serious stroke. They put him in the hospital for a while. He didn't like that, so he left. But his mood was just, depend on Krishna. And he had some practical work done every day, getting massage all over his body, and that seems to have restored him from semi-paralysis. So anyway, whilst he was at the hospital, some older doctor examined him, and then he told, Kirtananda, Satsrup, Gagabuni, Brahmananda, he told them that tell the old man he prays too much. He should get out and have a good walk every day. Something to that effect. So Prabhupada took that one instruction that he should walk every day, and it proved effective, of course, for the next 10 years.
So what was, so one is, Prabhuji, you shared the morning routine, that how he will, but can you divide it into hours?
Right, sorry. Anyway, so he would go on his morning walk. He would come back to the temple by 7 or in time for the deity greeting. And then he would receive his Guru Puja, and then he would give the Bhagavatam class. And then he would usually get back into his quarters at about 9 o'clock. So after that, he would take rest for 1 hour after breakfast. He would take a massage, full body oil massage from 11:30 to 1. And then he would get, bathed, fresh cloth, tilak, chant his Gayatri mantra, and then he would have his lunch. So the lunch was usually ready about 1:30. And after taking lunch, he would chant a couple of rounds, and then he would take rest for an hour. And then about maybe 4:30 or 5 o'clock, he would give darshan up until about 9 o'clock. So Prabhupada was constantly on the go. You asked about jet lag. I never really saw Prabhupada sleep, at least when we were traveling. So like we went initially from Bombay to Singapore and Singapore to Melbourne in Australia. The whole flight took 23 hours. But Prabhupada, when he arrived, it was mid-afternoon. First thing he did was have a massage. Then they brought him a little prasad. Bharat Maharaj was preparing that. And then in the evening, he was giving Bhagavatam class. So virtually speaking, Prabhupada never actually slept, not in the sense that we do. 1 or 2 hours at the most. The only time when I saw him sleep extra a couple of hours was when he was in Toronto. His face was all swollen. He had a tooth that was falling out. And to deal with that, he actually took a couple of extra hours rest in the daytime. But other than that, wherever we went, he'd go from one place, maybe a couple of 1,000 miles to some other place. As I had said, going from Bombay to Singapore, Singapore to Melbourne. He just went straight into his regular routine. I'm not saying that he didn't sleep, but the quality of his sleeping was very, light. And he did tell George Harrison that, that this is how I've written so many books. And George has said that it was inhuman. He appreciated it very much. So he was very regulated. He, practically speaking, was working 24 hours a day. Another example, in the first week of May, 76, Prabhupada was in Honolulu. He had gone there at the suggestion of Harisauri Prabhu, who was in charge of the English translation and distribution of Prabhupada's books. And so he had come to see Prabhupada in Vrindavan, and they agreed that Prabhupada would spend 1 month in Honolulu so that he could do more work on his books. And so he took that very seriously. As soon as we arrived in Honolulu, Prabhupada went straight into his regular schedule. No interruptions, no extra sleep, etc. And he began his translation work, or continued with it. At one point, early on, he rang the buzzer about 1 o'clock. We had this long wire with a buzz box at one end and a trigger at the other end. And we would set that up in Prabhupada's room with the trigger in my room, in the servants' rooms. Then if Prabhupada wanted anything, he could just ring the buzzer and I would go in. So Prabhupada rang the buzzer. Pushta Krishna Swami was Prabhupada's secretary at that time. So he also came in, although usually it was the servant's duty to, answer any calls that Prabhupada made. But Prabhupada called us in. He said, I won't go on my morning walk tomorrow morning because I'm not feeling very well. So Prabhupada, he had a infected kidney, and that would cause this condition called uremia, where your hands and extremities swell up with fluid. And so whenever that happened, Prabhupada would take half of a very small diuretic pill, and that had the effect of making him pass. So he took those pills occasionally, half pills, when he got the desired effect, then he would put them away. He told me, he said, actually, the medicine's making me a little dizzy. He said, this is the medicines of the demons. So that was his general routine. Depending on where you were, sometimes he would give that open darshan, especially in Vrindavan. Prabhupada liked to come out after the opening of the deities at 2 o'clock, or no, sorry, 4 o'clock. And then he would sit underneath the tamal tree in the courtyard. Now they've got a new tree. The tamal tree that's there now, that was a replant, because the first one, it was affected by too much water. The roots went rotten, and it fell over one day. So anyway, Prabhupada, not, you know, he didn't really have a demarcation as we do, you know. When it gets to nighttime, we, you know, hit the sack about 9, 10 o'clock, and we sleep through till 4 o'clock, ready for Mangalarti. Prabhupada never did that. When we were having Mangalarti, Prabhupada was already either still working on his Bhagavatam or chanting a few rounds of japa, or sometimes he would snooze. But it was unbelievable. And for me, you know, I was 25 years old at that time, fit and strong, and I just, you know, couldn't match it. He just didn't seem to sleep at all. He said, actually, when I go to sleep, I think, now I'm going to waste my time. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. It's already too late. We are already at 8:50, Prabhuji.
Okay. Well, if you want to do another session again,
yes, Prabhuji. We will
email me.
Yes, Prabhuji. Maybe sometime that day, maybe in the weekend, I will coordinate with you, and we can have maybe something, you know.
Well, it's not really what my convenience is, it's yours. You have so many in your group, and not everybody can get together at the same time.
Yes,
but we can try and arrange it.
Yes, Prabhuji.
You know, it's up to you. I'm happy to just talk about Prabhupada. But.
Yes. We are also very happy to hear about him. I will coordinate, Prabhuji. I'll coordinate another session again, Prabhuji.
Okay, is that on an MP3 file?
This is on an MP3, right, Prabhu?
We can get it, Prabhu, yes.
We can convert it to an MP3 file, Prabhuji.
Both we can give the video as well as the audio.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can send me the talk.
I will send you the link, Prabhuji. The video link and the audio link also.
Yeah. Gmail is my...
I will send, Prabhuji. On the mail, I'll send. Yes.
If it fits. If it doesn't, if the file's too big, you can use Dropbox.
No. Yes, sir. It will just be linked, Prabhuji. I will just send the link on the Gmail. Then you can download it.
Okay, that's great. I apologize deeply for being a little spaced out this evening. I'm not normally like this, but as I said, I've got some health issues. I have to take a lot of pills every day. Sometimes they make me drowsy, and they definitely slow you down. So anyway, life goes on.
No problem, Prabhuji. We were very happy to get your darshan and also to hear from you. No issue. And we'll coordinate, Prabhuji, for one more session. We'll coordinate. Okay.
That'll be very nice. For devotees that are not familiar with my recollections of Prabhupada, and I have a diary that I kept when I was traveling with Prabhupada from November 75 to March of 1977. Then I had another month with Prabhupada in Vrindavan, the whole month of October 77. just before he left. So I've been writing those in a book. I think many of you will have. Does that show? This is a Transcendental Diary.
Yes, raise it, Prabhuji. Raise the level.
Huh?
Raise the level, Prabhuji. Yes.
What? Up there? I'm seeing you, so I can't see where I'm. Can everybody see that?
Yes. Hare Krishna. So ये बहुत सुंदर डायरी है जो प्रभु जी ये अपने पास डायरी रखते थे, हमेशा लिखते थे, और जैसे all this diary is also in the form of a book, hard book also, or soft book also. Prabhuji's time with
well, I have
Prabhupada.
soft and hard. Right now, all my stock, whatever I've got left, actually, I just shipped it from America to here in Mayapur. So I think I've got about 200 or 300 sets.
Okay, Prabhuji.
And there's 5 volumes to a set. Volume 1 is out of print at the moment, but I'm hoping to arrange a reprint this year, and possibly volume 2 and 3. So if anybody wants to, delve into the details of what it was like traveling with Prabhupada, you're quite welcome to write to me. I can send them to you in the post or courier, etc.
Okay, Prabhuji. I will, in our normal class also, I will discuss, and I will, we'll see if devotees need, then we will write to you, Prabhuji.
Could you say that again, Prabhu?
I'm saying we will discuss, we will announce it again, Prabhuji, later also for the diaries, the books, and if devotees need, then we will send a mail to you, Prabhuji.
Yes, okay. You can write to me. I'll give you the prices.
Yes.
Right now, I'm working on the diary from October 77. That's a separate diary from my Transcendental Diary series.
Okay.
And then I've got 2 more volumes of the Transcendental Diary to write, and then the whole project will be finished. So anybody, I have a website also, lotusimprints.com.
Okay, Prabhuji.
And you'll find that there's a bunch of audio files that you can download for free. I think maybe about 20 hours or something.
Oh, okay, Prabhuji.
Okay?
Yes. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. We're very grateful to you. And for any diary, for any books or anything, I will write to you on the mail. And I will also share your website address also with all the devotees.
Right. Very nice. Thank you very much for organizing.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
My thanks to all the devotees that are participating. It's very enjoyable to talk about Prabhupada. We could do that 24 hours a day.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes,
and I look forward to being in touch with you in the near future.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Ronnie Prabhu?
Yeah.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव जय राधे जय राधा माधव जय राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर जय राधे जय कृष्ण बलराम Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Vrindavan Dham, Vrindavan Dham, Vrindavan Dham, Jaya Vrindavan Dham, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Ashi Mataji, thank you so much. So, Harisauri Prabhu has already come. So, Hare Krishna devotees. So, we are very fortunate that today we have among us a very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, His Grace Harisauri Prabhu. We are very, very fortunate to have us with him. And I will give you a little bit of background. Prabhuji's little introduction I will give. That Prabhuji was born in England on November 17, 1950. And in 1971, Prabhuji immigrated to Australia. And where on the next day only, he met devotees from ISKCON. And in 1972, which means next year, on 9th April 1972 in Sydney, he was initiated by Srila Prabhupada. And in 1975, Prabhuji moved to the newly opened, our very dear Krishna Balaram temple in Navan, and where he served for temple commander. And in November the same year, Prabhuji joined Prabhupada as his personal entourage, and he
जूते पहनने पड़ेंगे क्या?
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, we can hear.
Okay, good.
I think.
So shall I begin?
Yes, Prabhu. I think yes, you can. Girish Prabhu was giving the introduction, but I think he had a problem with the connection, with his internet connection. So yes, Prabhu, we can begin.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
First of all, thank you all for inviting me to speak. It's definitely the highlight of my day, any day, if I can speak about Srila Prabhupada. He's our life and soul. Now, I was just working on my Vyasa Puja offering, and I thought it would be nice to start off this session with me reading out that Vyasa Puja offering, and then if there's time we can go into questions and answers. So if you're all okay with that.
Yes, Prabhuji, it is fine.
I've got to get my I've just got to get my program up. So you're all in Gurgaon, or you're spread all over the place? Giriraj?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So the majority of the devotees, you're all in Delhi?
All in Gurgaon, Prabhuji. There
Okay.
we have a Bhaktivedanta group, and the group is also called Prabhupada Kripa Sangha, Prabhuji.
Okay.
So we have 2-3 Bhaktivedanta groups in Gurgaon. So we all have weekly classes, but due to lockdown, we have shifted to these online Zoom classes, Prabhuji.
Okay, very good. Just give me 1 minute. I'm trying to find the file that I was going to use. Computers can be a great utility, but they can be very frustrating as well.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Let's see what we can find here.
And we are also running this session on Facebook Live, Prabhuji.
I don't use Facebook that much, frankly.
Yes. We tried to find your page, but it was not there. So I realized you don't have the page.
I think there is one somewhere. There used to be one, but I don't use it that much. I do get messages sometimes, but let me see here. Just 1 second. All right, we got your video up. What I'm looking for is the offering that I just wrote. Just hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay. So since this is not on a big screen or anything, can you see me on your screens?
Yes,
Or
Prabhuji.
are you seeing what I'm reading from on my computer?
If you want to show what you're reading from the computer, that is also possible, Prabhuji.
All right. Well, I think what we'll do is I'll read through the offering.
Okay, Prabhuji.
And then after that, questions and answers, I think will be nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going until what, 8 o'clock or 8:30?
8:30, Prabhuji. 1
Okay.
hour.
All right. Very good. Thank you all so much. All right. So there's this quote, therefore he is as good as Krishna. So this is, of course, the lead in to speaking about Srila Prabhupada. He's as good as Krishna. So this was in May 1976 when Prabhupada was in Hawaii. And
I think the light went off in Mayapur.
What happened?
I think the light went off, Prabhu, in Mayapur.
Oh.
He told us already that there might be few blind spots.
Where's the light? Let me call him, Prabhu.
Oh, okay, Prabhu. But I think the electricity went off.
Yes, the light went out. So just coming back on. Prabhuji just came back.
Yeah.
जब भी light, is it coming on? Prabhuji?
He will have to reconnect. So
Rameshwar Garam Prabhu, can you do a short kirtan when Prabhuji comes till that time?
Oh, yes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Prabhu. He has come. Prabhuji has come.
I think that's a little bit better for the visuals. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to read something from the Vyasa Puja offering that I made. I haven't sent it in yet, but it's going soon. So we're looking at no. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. I'm just searching out the file. I was just working on it and it cut out. Hare Krishna. Sorry for the delay here. I thought it was all set up, but we're still having electrical problems, apparently.
No problem, Prabhuji.
Wrong. Yeah, I apologize for this. It was working just before we logged on. Just one more minute. Hare Krishna. All right, I'm sorry, but this is a computer glitch. Okay, so this is my Vyasa Puja offering, more or less. That's coming up very shortly, of course. And so the presentation is from the point of view of participating in Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. So today we celebrate the birth anniversary of Srila Prabhupada. He is the living Bhagavatam and the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. The worship of Srila Prabhupada is actually more important than the worship of Lord Krishna. As His Divine Grace stated in May 3rd, 1976 in Honolulu, the other day, I have explained why the Guru is accepted as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Sorry, this is all in the Sanskrit as jumbled. So, if anyone thinks that the Archa Vigraha, the deities, is made of stone or made of earth or made of some other material, and that the Guru, the spiritual master, is an ordinary man, these things are forbidden. So why is the Guru to be considered Shakshadari Tvanasa Master Shastriya, exactly the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That reason is given there. The reason is that he is giving the Krishna consciousness knowledge. So that's like a little opening statement. So we had, of course, traveling with Srila Prabhupada, we had the advantage, because we always say that Vani is more important than Vapu, because the Vani can be cleared at any time. I mean, sorry, the Vapu can come and go at any time, but the Vani is always there to guide us. So Prabhupada always stressed that, but on Srila Prabhupada's party, we had the advantage of hearing from him maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, and Prabhupada was showing by practical example how to live a life of Krishna consciousness. So in August of 1976, Prabhupada had traveled down to Hyderabad. So on the 21st of August in 1976, Srila Prabhupada had participated in the opening of the temple. And the next day we had His Divine Grace's Vyasa Puja. And now, this is a couple of days later, on August the 21st, Prabhupada received the group of Indian Brahmanas in his room after the Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja, before they leave back to the south. So these gentlemen were very nice devotees. They liked the ISKCON devotees very much. They were very impressed with Srila Prabhupada, and they were eager to help us in any way that they could. So they came to visit Prabhupada in his room just before they left to go back to the south. There was some nice exchanges. Prabhupada was equally as appreciative of them. He urged them to sustain this spirit of cooperation and help spread Krishna consciousness in the world. He happily posed for a photograph with them, and he accepted a gift of a Shalagram Shila from Sampak Kumar Bhattacharya before they left. So that's a key point, which we'll see in a minute. sorry, I've lost my scrolling there. Hare Krishna. So when Prabhupada received that Srila, he put it on his desk for a while. And when everybody had finally dispersed, Prabhupada asked me to get Pradyumna Prabhu. So for those of you that don't know Pradyumna, he was Prabhupada's Sanskrit editor, and he traveled on the party probably more than anybody else in ISKCON. He actually was a self-taught Sanskritist, and Prabhupada was also personally guiding him and developing him. So when this Srila was given, Prabhupada kept it on his desk. Everybody chatted for a while and then they left. So then Prabhupada turned to Pradyumna Prabhu. He asked him if he would like to personally worship the Shalagram Srila given by Sampak Kumar. So Prabhupada had obviously changed his mind about sending the Lord to the Bombay temple. Because in those days, at this time, August of 76, Prabhupada was well into developing and building the Juhu Beach temple. So about half of it was up at that time. And it was looking more and more gorgeous and attractive as each day went by. So Prabhupada, he took a round he took an inspection round, and then that culminated in Prabhupada sitting in his room with the Brahmanas just before they left. So with this Srila, Prabhupada turned to Pradyumna Prabhu and he asked him if he would like to personally worship the Shalagram Srila given by Sampak Kumar, which was sitting on his desk. He obviously had changed his mind about sending the Lord to the Bombay temple. So at this time, Prabhupada had not introduced Shalagram Srila worship in hardly any temple. In fact, in the very early days when the Western devotees first came to Vrindavan, that was one of the concerns that some of the devotees actually, when they went to visit Govardhan Hill, they kept some Sheilas in their pockets. Later on, Prabhupada found out about that and he instructed them to immediately take the Shalagrams back to Govardhan. As far as looking after them, he wanted them to be kept very simply, just for preaching work. So it was an important topic. And Prabhupada turned to Pradyumna and he asked him if he would like to personally worship the Shalagram Srila given by Sampak Kumara, which was still sitting on his desk. Pradyumna was readily agreeable, and so Prabhupada gave him some simple instructions how to worship. He said, so we can carry some fruit every morning. You just put flowers on the Vyasa, tulsi and water and flour to do the puja, and a little fruit, he said, and that's all. Then turning to the rest of us, he said, he has got tendency to worship, meaning Pradyumna. Gagamuni Swami was there. He said, yes, he's a Brahmana, Pandit. So Panditji, Prabhupada smiled, calling Pradyumna by his popular sobriquet. So as the meeting broke up and everybody filed out, Prabhupada finalized Pradyumna's new duty with him. He told him to buy a small singasan and a Panchapatra water pot and some fine linen, from which he should make a small dhoti and a chadar for the Lord. He was to worship him with flowers, tulsi, and gopi chandan. He referred Pradyumna to the painting in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, where Advaita Acharya was depicted as worshipping the Shalagram Shila, to call Lord Chaitanya, and he told them to follow that example. He instructed Pradyumna, first thing is that when you take the Shalagram Shila, wherever you stay, this worship must go on daily. That you cannot stop. One day, sorry, my screen's gone. Sorry, lost my place. All right. So he's telling Pradyumna that he should worship the Shila every day. The seva cannot be stopped. If you can't do it, your wife can do it. And as your son grows, they had a 7-year-old boy that was traveling with us on Prabhupada's party. So Prabhupada said that as his son grows, he will also do it. So although Prabhupada sometimes complains about Pradyumna's smarta Brahman tendencies, he once told that he had saved Pradyumna from becoming a smarta. Still, Prabhupada recognized he had good Brahminical qualification, and so therefore he entrusted the Shalagram Shila to him. So the next day, August the 27th, 1976, in Delhi. At that time, I think we were camped out at the house of Sampat, I'm sorry, what's his name? He was the owner of the Laxman Sylvania light bulb company. So he was very eager to associate with Srila Prabhupada. So when we returned to the temple, Prabhupada greeted their lordships, Sri Sri Radha Parthasarathi, and then mounted the Vyasasan for a Guru Pujan class. Actually, the temple at that time was in a little semi-detached building in Lajpat Nagar 3. So the devotees had had this huge Vyasasan made for Prabhupada, but when you put it in the room, temple room, it blocked half the space up. But Prabhupada didn't mind.